We're back on recording, everyone. This is part 3 of our Torah portion, Feast of Sukkot, Yom Rishon Sukkot. And so we are going to be reading through the Torah this week. If you have not watched part 2 or part 3, right now we're in the book of Genesis. I would encourage you to watch part 1 or part 2 because part 3 we're going to be continuing on, and we kind of got cut off halfway into a verse. So just to get some context, watch part 1 and part 2 when these videos are up on YouTube. So I was just reading, me and Shoshana were mentioning from before that Eliyahu was not taken up into the third heaven even. He was actually taken up in a whirlwind. Elijah was just taken up in a whirlwind and brought down to another part of the earth. And Hanuk was taken up into the third heaven, but he was brought back down. He did not stay there. So that's what we were talking about from before. So as you can see here, Hanuk walked in the fear of Yahuwah, and they make mention of that twice. It says, and Methuselah lived 187 years and begot Lamech. So here's the other Lamech of Seth's line. And Methuselah lived after he had begotten Lamech 182 years and begot sons and daughters. And all the days of Methuselah were 969 years. And he died. Wow. And Lamech lived 182 years and begot a son and daughter. Begot a son. And he called his name Nuach, saying, "This shall console us from the works, from the labor of our hands," meaning, Nuach means rest. Nuah means rest. So, from the labor of our hands from the earth which Yahuwah had cursed. And Lamech lived, and he had begotten Nuach 595 years. So he lived 595 years after he begot Nuach, and begot sons and daughters, and all the days of Lamech were 777 years, and he died. Wow, that's weird. He lived a lot less, so possibly this is, post Genesis 6, 3-4 situation here that it goes back to, and we haven't even read Genesis 6 yet, so it's kind of interesting. It's hinting to a lesser length of days already. So hold on, why did it do that? You stupid thing. All right, so it says Yahuwah, and here we go. So it says and Noah was a son of 500 years, and Nuach begot Shem, Ham, and Japheth. Hold on. And it was when the sons of men had begun to multiply upon the earth, daughters were born to them, and the sons of the mighty. Now this is referring to Yahuwah's title actually in the book of Enoch. He's known as the great mighty Kadosh one. So just in case you're wondering why it says sons of the mighty, it's referring to Yahuwah basically. So the sons of Yahuwah saw the daughters of men that they were beautiful and took them wives. Obviously this is talking about the watchers, the angels mentioned in the book of Enoch. And it says they took wives, meaning by force most likely. They took them wives of all whom they pleased. And Yahuwah said, "This evil generation shall not stand before me forever, because they are flesh and their works are evil. A term or length will I give them, 120 years, if they may be converted." So he's only really giving them 120 years so that they would have 120 years to repent, basically, a lifespan. If they may be converted. Giants were in the earth in those days, and also after that, that the sons of the mighty, the sons of Yahuwah, had gone in unto the daughters of men. There were born from them giants who were of old were men of name, men of fame, basically. The famous heroes of old. I kind of like how the NLT puts it. Genesis 6:4 says, the famous warriors and heroes of ancient times were the children of the watchers. So, Hercules, all these giants that became famous in Greek mythology and stuff like that. And Yahuwah saw that the wickedness of man had multiplied in the earth, and that every form or image of the thought of his heart was only evil every day, or in the Masoretic text would say continually. And it repented, made that basically Yahuwah regretted in his word. So you can see how it's referring to Yahuwah and Yahusha here, his word. Yahuwah in his word regretted that he had made men upon the earth, and he said that he would break their strength according to his pleasure. And Yahuwah said, man whom I have made will I blot out. I from the face of the earth, a man to beast, a reptile, and the fowls of the heaven, because it repented me, or he relented me in my word that I've made them. But Nuach found mercy before Yahuwah. So I like how it says mercy here instead of grace, in my opinion. So now we've started in Genesis 6, so now I'm going to have to go back to this page here to continue Genesis 6, because I'm reading from a page from the internet here. So let me see here, 6 to 11, here we go. These are the genealogies of the ethnicity of Noah. That's interesting. Noah was a righteous man, complete in 2 works in his generation, or the Masoretic would say tamim, meaning perfect genetically, no spot or blemish. Worked in 2 works in his generation, and in the fear of Yahuwah walked Nuach. So he walked in the fear of Yahuwah just like, his ancestor Hanuk. And Nuach begot 3 sons, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the earth was corrupted through the inhabitants thereof, who had declined from the ways of righteousness before Yahuwah, and the earth was filled with rapine. Now it's interesting here, it says in the Jerusalem Targum, it says, and the earth was filled with violence and frauds. And Yahuwah beheld the earth, and lo, it was corrupt, for all flesh, everyone corrupted his way upon the earth. So everyone was corrupt. All flesh had become corrupted. And Yahuwah said to Nuach, the end of all flesh has come before me, because the earth is filled with rapine by their evil works. And behold, I will destroy them with the earth, make you an ark of wood, of cedars, and 150 cells that you make to the ark in its left side, and 36 in its breadth, and 10 cabins in the midst, to lay up in them provision, and 5 repositories on the right, and 5 on the left, and you shall protect it within and without pitch. Go thou unto Pishon, and take from there a precious stone, and fix it in the ark to illuminate you. That's interesting. With the measure of a cubit or span shall you complete it above, and doors shall you set inside the ark, and with dwelling places, inferior, second, and third shall you make it. And behold, I bring a flood of waters upon the earth to swallow up all flesh, which has in it the spirit of life from the heavens. Whatever is upon the earth shall be swept away, but I will establish my covenant with you, and you shall go into the ark, you and your sons and your wife, and the wives of your sons with you, and of all that lives of all flesh, 2 of every kind shall go into the ark to be preserved alive with you, male and female shall they be, of the fowl after its kind, and the cattle after its kind, and every reptile of the earth after its kind. 2 of every sort shall enter to you by the hand of the angel, who will take and cause them to enter to you to be preserved. And you take you of all food that is eaten, and let it be to you and them for food. And Noah did according to Yahuwah, to all that Yahuwah had instructed him. Now, this is the only criticism I have to say about the Aramaic Targum here. I think it's a little bit more accurate in this chapter in the Masoretic and the Septuagint when it says 7 of every clean and 2 of every unclean. That's the only criticism I really have here, the way it was translated into English here. They kind of, I don't know if they did it on purpose to do 2 of every kind, but that's a false misconception of the Christian church. It's not just 2 of every kind, it's 2 of every unclean and 7 of clean. Maybe it will say that in the next chapter. But I'm gonna keep that in my mind here. And Yahuwah said to Nuach, enter thou and everyone in your house into the ark, for you I have seen righteous before me in this generation of all clean cattle. There we go. All right. Praise Yahuwah, praise Yahusha. All right, it was in the next chapter. Of all clean cattle, take you 7 by 7, male and female. Of all cattle not clean, 2 and 2. So the 2 of each is the stuff they're not eating at all. So I want to make that clear. That's the unclean. But the birds of the heavens, 7 by 7, male and female, to preserve them, seed upon the earth. For behold, I give you space of 7 days if they will be converted. So Yahuwah is giving another week for the wicked people on the earth to be converted. So Yahuwah is being very merciful right now. It shall be forgiven them, but if they will not be converted after a time of days, yet 7, I will cause rain to come down upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights, and will destroy all bodies of man and of beast upon the earth. And Noah did according to all that Yahuwah had commanded him. And Noah was the son of 600 years when the deluge of waters was upon the earth, and Noah entered with his sons and with his wife and the wives of his sons with him in the ark from before the waters of the deluge, of all cattle clean and of all cattle unclean, of birds and whatever creeps upon the earth. 2 and 2 they entered unto Noach into the ark, male and female, as Yahuwah had instructed Noach. And now all of them are they're basically all the animals, and they're starting to enter into the ark, and the people are into the ark. And it was at the time of 7 days after the conclusion of the mourning for Methuselah that Yahuwah beheld, and lo, the sons of men had not turned. And the waters of the deluge came down hotly from the heavens. That's interesting, hotly. Wow. Kind of maybe like a boiling pot, maybe. In 600 year of the life of Nuach in the second month, which was the month of Marcheshvan. That's interesting. Never heard of that one. For hitherto the months had been numbered from Tishri, which was the beginning of the year at the completion of the world. In the 17th day of the month, in that day were all the foundations of the great deep broken up, and the giants were gathered there together with their sons and perturbed them, and afterwards the windows of heaven were opened. Interesting. Seems like something was left out. That's an interesting part that the Masoretic text doesn't mention, that the giants were trying to get into the ark. And the windows, and see now, here's a different Targum here. They have in parentheses here, the Jerusalem Targum here. And the windows of heaven were opened, and the rain came down upon the earth 40 days and 40 nights. And that same day entered Nuach and Shem, Ham, and Japheth, the sons of Nuach, and the wife of Nuach, and the 3 wives of his sons with him into the ark. They and every animal after his kind, and all the cattle after their kind, and every reptile that creeps upon the earth after his kind, and every fowl after its kind, every bird which flies. And they entered to Nuach into the ark, 2 and 2 of all flesh, in which was the breath of life. And they coming entered male and female of all flesh unto him. And Yahuwah had instructed him, and the word of Yahuwah covered over the door of the ark unto the face thereof. Now that seems a little prophetic there. That's interesting. He covered the door, so he's the door himself. So it's kind of interesting that he's covering the door of the ark. I think that's kind of interesting, in my opinion, anyway.
Well, he prevented anything from entering.
Yeah, he's pretty much the protector. He's the double-edged sword that guarded the tree of life, as we read earlier. So it's kind of interesting. He's always the protector. And the word of Yahuwah was merciful upon him. And there was a flood 40 days upon the earth, and the waters were multiplied and bared up the ark, and it was lifted from the earth, and waters waxed mighty and increased greatly upon the earth, and the ark went floating upon the face of the waters, and the waters prevailed greatly upon the earth, and all high hills which were under the heavens were covered. 15 cubits higher did the waters prevail, and the mountains were covered, and all flesh expired, which moved upon the earth of fowl. Now, notice how it says, which moves upon the earth, so land animals. So that's interesting to note. Of fowl, of cattle, wild beasts, and every moving thing that moves upon the earth, and all the sons of men, everything in whose nostrils was the breath of life, and all on the dry land died, and all the bodies of men and beasts upon the face of the earth, from man to cattle to creeping thing, and the fowl which wings in the air of heaven, perished from the earth. And Noah only was left, and they who were with him in the ark. And the waters prevailed upon the earth 150 days. Wow. And Yahuwah in his word remembered Noah and all the animals and the cattle which were with him in the ark. And Yahuwah caused the wind of mercies, meaning his set apart spirit, to pass over the earth, and the waters were dried. And he remembered his mercies, the tube which was with Noah, and Yahuwah caused the wind of mercies, and the fountains of the deep were shut up, and the windows of heaven, and the rain was forbidden to descend from heaven, and the waters returned from being on earth, going and returning, and the waters were diminished at the end of 150 days, and the ark rested in the 7th month, which was the month of, I'm gonna put in Abib here, because Nisan is a pagan name supposedly for Abib, so I'll use Abib here, which is the month of Abib, in the 17th day of the month, upon the mountains of Quadron. Interesting. And the name of the mountain is Cardania, and the name of the other mountain Irmania. And there was builded the city of Armenia in the land of the east. Now that's interesting. And the waters went and diminished until the 10th month. I'm not going to say that name because that's definitely not the original name of the month. In the 1st month, the heads of the mountains were seen, and it was at the end of 40 days, and Noah opened the aperture of the ark which he had made, and he sent out a raven, and it went forth, going to the 4th and returning until the waters had dried from the earth, and he sent forth a house dove from being with him to see whether the waters were lightened from off the faces of the earth. And the dove found no rest for the sole of the foot, and returned unto him to the ark, and knew that the waters were upon the face of all the earth. And he reached out his hand and took and brought her unto him into the ark, and he prolonged, waited yet 7 days, and he began to number. And again he sent the dove from the ark, and the dove came to him at evening time, and behold, a leaf of olive gathered and broken off. Now that's interesting. At evening time, so at sunset, that dove came back and brought the leaf of an olive tree. So basically, Yahuwah didn't stop the waters until it was basically the next day. Interesting. And so broken off, she brought in her mouth, and which she had taken from the mouth of Mashiach, and Noach understood that the waters had lightened from being on the earth, and he prolonged yet 7 days. So he waited another week and added to send forth the dove, but she added not to return him again. And it was in the 601st year in Tishri.
I wonder how they know that because this is the first translation I've seen that the dove had taken the olive leaf from the mount of the Mashiach.
Yeah.
How did I'm just wondering, how did Noah know where he was?
I
Did
don't
he
know.
have?
I know that this manuscript, the Jerusalem Targum, which is the one that's in like parentheses right here, it could possibly just be someone trying to basically guess. They might be adding a little bit in here with the mountain of Mashiach. Yeah, they probably didn't know at that point. It could be some tradition added in there possibly. I'm not too sure. I just came across this Jerusalem Targum not that long ago. I don't know how they would have known. And this manuscript, there was that's being added to the other Targum on this document is pretty much, it's in fragments. So I don't know how they would have known. Whoever translated it, maybe they're trying to add some historical context or add some historical proof of something. I don't know. I have no idea how.
The only translation I've ever seen that adds that.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't know if Newark probably at first never knew it. Maybe the Father revealed to him where it was at, because we got to realize too, Newark did not write the Torah. So we also got to realize that these first 5 books were written by Masha, the majority of these first 5 books. So Masha could have been told on that mountain when he was being given the 10 Commandments. Yahuwah could be telling him all this. Newark was actually not writing this at all. So even though this is happening before Moshe's time, before Masha's time, he's the one that actually writes all this stuff that we're reading. So the original Torah would have been written by Masha and, a little bit of it by Yahusha, son of Nun. But the majority would have been written by Moses, not by Noah or Adam or any of the patriarchs. So there might be some stuff written down here that they wouldn't have known. That, the location of stuff, that it's possible Yahuwah could have just revealed it to Moses, and that's a possibility. But I don't know. I don't know a really for sure answer on that, how they would know that.
It's just interesting that it's the only thing that is there that is not in other translations. That's all.
Yeah, it's not in. There's a lot of stuff in here I've noticed so far. Just the first 6 chapters. That's not in the Septuagint or Masoretic text. There's a lot of stuff. The word of Yahuwah I see at least 4 or 5 more times that it's not in our Bibles. So yeah, it could be stuff taken out too. It could be stuff that they didn't want us to know.
Mm-hmm.
So it says, and Newark understood that the waters had lightened, so meaning the waters were not as heavy from being on the earth, and he prolonged yet 7 days, so he waited another week. The dove, but she added to return to him again, and it was in the 601st year, in Tishri, in the first of the month, in the beginning of the year, that the waters were dried from upon the earth, and Newark, removing the covering of the ark, and saw the faces of the ground to be dried, and in the month Marcheshvan, in the 27th day of the month, the earth was dry. And Yahuwah spake with Newark, saying, Go forth from the ark, you and your wife and your sons, and the wives of your sons with you, every living animal that is with you, of all flesh, of fowl, of cattle, and of every reptile that creeps upon the earth, brings forth with you, that they may produce in the earth and spread abroad and multiply on the earth. And Newark went forth, and his sons and his wife and the wives of his sons with him, every animal, every reptile, every bird which moves upon the earth, and according to its seed, went forth from the ark. And Newark builded the altar before Yahuwah, that altar which Adam had builded in the time when he was cast forth from the Garden of Eden. So this is kind of interesting. And had offered an oblation upon it, and upon it had Cain and Abel offered their oblations. But when the waters of the deluge descended, it was destroyed. And And Nuach rebuilded it, and he took all clean cattle and all clean fowl and sacrificed upon that altar, and Yahuwah accepted his oblation with mercy or favor. And Yahuwah said in his word, I will not add again to curse the earth on account of the sin of the children of men, for the imagination of the heart of man is evil from his youth. Wow. Neither will I add to destroy whatever lives as I have done, until all the days of the earth, sowing in the season of Tishri, and the harvest in the season of Abib, and the coldness in the season of Tebeth, and the warmth in the season of the 10th month. I'm just going to say 10th month there. I'm not going to use the Masoretic translation there of Tammuz. I'm not going to say that. And summer and winter, days and nights shall not fail, until all the days of the earth from now, sowing and reaping and cold and heat, days and nights shall not increase. Now, that's interesting. So the Jerusalem one kind of adds a little bit at the end. Until all the days of the earth from now, sowing and reaping and cold and heat, days and nights shall not cease. That's good. Interesting. So now we're getting to, I believe, IX, and I believe that's chapter 8, if I'm not mistaken. So let me just see which Targum I was actually reading from. It might have actually been the Jonathan Ben Uziel, why there was so much added stuff. Yeah, that's probably what it was. Yeah, but a lot of interesting stuff if all that stuff that's there is true. So it kind of alludes to basically that, Adam would have been doing sacrifices, which is true. Obviously sin came into the world. He would have had to be doing sacrifices. So, all right. So we were at, let's see here. I will establish my covenant with you, the sons of Noah, Chris, Canaan. Okay. So here we go. All right. And yeah. So chapter 9, I'm going to see if we have enough time to do chapter 8 or chapter 9, what chapter we're on right now. What I don't like is it's not showing me any warning yet, whether we've gone down to 9 or 10 minutes yet, so I really don't know. All right, so I believe IX in Roman numerals would be, whoa, that's 11. No way we got 9, yeah, should be 9. All right, so it's chapter 9 of Bereshit. It says, and Yahuwah Baruch Nuach and his sons, and said to them, spread abroad and multiply and fill the earth. So again, he's restarting, kind of like a restart from Genesis chapter 3 or chapter 2, where he says the same thing to Adam and Kua. He says, fill the earth, multiply. So, and the fear of you, this is the part I was talking about in Genesis, and the fear of you and the dread of you shall be upon every beast of the earth, and upon every fowl of the heavens, and all which creeps upon the earth, and all the fish of the sea. Into your hand shall they be delivered. Every moving thing that lives, for you it shall be eaten as the green herb. I have given you the whole. But the flesh with its blood you shall not eat. And again, this is another part of the law that I think I'm going to be writing down just to remind myself, even though I don't eat flesh as of right now. I'm abstaining from flesh, but it's a decent thing to write down. So do not eat the flesh with the blood. With the blood. That's for any of our brothers and sisters that, are, keeping the Leviticus 11 dietary instructions, eating beef and chicken. Just make sure you pour all the blood out. So, and also all your blood of your lives will I require from every beast. So this is talking about for sin and stuff like that. For every beast will I require in the hand of man, from the hand of the man who sheds the blood of his brother will I require the life of man. So, tooth for tooth, that type of thing. So if someone commits genocide, Yahuwah requires that same blood from the person that murdered the other person, basically. Whosoever sheds the blood of man by witness upon the sentence of the judges, his blood shall be shed. because in the image of Yahuwah made he man, and you spread abroad and multiply, bring forth in the earth and multiply therein. And Yahuwah spake to Nuach and his sons with him, saying, And I, behold, I establish my covenant with you and with your children after you, and with every living thing which is with you, of fowl of cattle, and of every beast of the field that is with you, of all going forth for the ark, of every animal of the earth, and I will establish my covenant with you. Of all flesh shall not again be consumed by the waters of the deluge, nor shall there be again a deluge to destroy the earth. And Yahuwah said, This is the sign of the covenant which I appoint between my word and between you, so between Yahusha and between us, and between every living being that is with you unto perpetual generations. I have set my bow, meaning the rainbow, in the cloud, and it shall be for a sign of the covenant between my word, between Yahusha, and between the earth. And it shall be that when clouding I be cloud the earth, the bow shall be seen in the cloud, and I will remember the covenant which is between my word and between you, and between every living being of all flesh. And there shall not be again the waters of a deluge to destroy all flesh, and the bow shall be in the cloud, and I will look upon it and remember the everlasting or eternal covenant between the word of Yahuwah and between every living being of all flesh that is upon the earth. And Yahuwah said, This is the sign of the covenant which I have established between my word and between all flesh which is upon the earth. And the sons of Nuach who went forth from the ark were Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And Ham is the father of Canaan. Now we're getting to Canaan. These three are the sons of Nuach, and from them was the whole earth overspread, meaning from Noah's three sons, you get all the ethnicities of right now. And Nuach began to be a man working on the earth, and he planted a vineyard, and he drank of the wine and was drunk. He was uncovered in the midst of his tent, and Ham, the father of Canaan, saw the nakedness of his father, and he showed to his two brothers without. And Shem and Japheth took a mantle and laid it upon the shoulders of both, and went backward and covered the nakedness of their father, and their faces were averted, and the nakedness of their father they saw not. And Nuach awoke from his wine, and which his youngest son had done unto him, he said, Accursed be Canaan, a working servant shall he be to his brothers. And he said, Baruch be Yahuwah Elohim of Shem, and Canaan shall be a servant unto them. Yahuwah shall enlarge Japheth, and he shall make his spirit to dwell in the tabernacles of Shem, or his esteem, actually, my bad. Make his esteem to dwell in the tabernacles of Shem. And Canaan shall be servant unto them. And Nuach lived after the deluge 350 years, and Nuach was 950 years, and he died. These are generations of the sons of Nuach, Shem, Ham, and Japheth. And the sons were born to them after the deluge. The sons of Japheth, Gomer, Magog, Madai, Yavan, Tuval, Meshech, Tiraz. The sons of Gomer, Ashkenaz. Okay, so that's where you get the Ashkenazi ethnicity from. Rephath and Togarmah, and the sons of Yavan, and Elisha and Tarshish. So that's where you get Tarshish, the place Tarshish, and Dodanim. From these were the islands of the peoples divided in their lands, each according to his language, according to their families and their nations, probably more specifically ethnicities. I would have to look into the original Greek of the Septuagint, but I'm pretty sure that would be ethnos there for nations. And the sons of the Ham, Cush, and Mitzrayim, and Put, and Canaan, and the sons of Cush, Seba, Chavila, Sabetha, Ra'ama, and Sabteka, and the sons of Ra'ama, Sheba, and Dedan. And Cush begot Nimrod. He began to be a powerful man in the earth. He was a powerful man before Yahuwah. Therefore, it says, like Nimrod, the man of strength before Yahuwah. Now, what's interesting in the Septuagint, it doesn't just say a powerful man. It actually says he began to be a giant in the earth. And then it says he was a giant hunter. So he hunted under other giants before Yahuwah in the Septuagint version of that verse.
I believe it also says he was against Yahuwah.
Yeah, I think the Hebrew word before, I would have to look it up for any viewers or listeners, but I would have to look into the original Hebrew for the word before, but someone mentioned that it could be actually referring to against the Father, against Yahuwah. He began to be a giant against him. So, yeah, so the Aramaic just says powerful man, similar to the Masoretic, unfortunately. But I believe he was a powerful warrior, like a Hercules type of character. He probably began to be a giant and started, becoming like a ancient warrior of old, like Genesis 6:4 says. And so it says the beginning of his kingdom was Babel and Arak, Akkad, Calneh in the land of Babel. And in the land of Babel, and from that land he went forth to Athura, and he built Nineveh, hence why there's so much problem with Nineveh, and the city of Rekhov and Kalak and Rezin between Nineveh and Kalek, which was a great city, and Mitzrayim beget Ludeh and Anameh and Lehabeh and Naphtuhe and Pathruseh and Kazluke, and who came the Philistines and Kapute. So what's interesting in the Masoretic text, all those names have im at the end. So that's what's kind of interesting. So there could have been some giants from Mitzrayim, aka the person that we get the false title Egypt from. So we have Philistines from his lineage. So that's something to pay attention to. Then it says, Canaan begot Zidon, his firstborn. Zidon is another pagan nation in Scripture. And Cheth and Yabuseh. And so these are the Amorites, the Jebusites, the Girgashites, the Hivites, the Archites, Anticites, the Arvites, the Zemarites, Kamathites. And afterwards, the seed of the Canaanites were spread abroad. So they came from the seed of the Canaanites, pretty much. And the frontier of Canaanite was from Zidon, and coming from Gerar to Azza, coming unto Sedom and Amorah, so Sodom and Gomorrah, and Admah and Zoibim unto Lasha. These are the sons of Ham according to their progenies, to their languages, in their lands, in their peoples. And we'll have to finish chapter 10. When we come back, we got less than a minute. We're about to get cut off, so we'll finish chapter 10, and I think that will be it for today. That's a decent enough for our viewers and listeners, I think. So please stay tuned. We'll be finishing up chapter 10 very soon. So stay tuned.
Shalom.
Shalom.